My beloved brothers and sisters, there are moments in life when the pain inside your heart becomes impossible to explain. You try telling people, but they don't fully understand. You smile in front of others while carrying battles nobody can see. Perhaps you have reached a point where you feel tired, misunderstood, or even forgotten. But listen carefully. Just because people do not understand your pain does not mean your pain is unseen. There is one who knows every tear before it falls, every silent prayer before it leaves your lips, and every burden you carry even when you tell nobody about it. Sometimes the hardest part of suffering is not the pain itself. It is feeling alone inside that pain. If you feel that way today, then this reminder is for you. Because your story is not over, your struggle is not meaningless, and your pain is not invisible. When people fail to understand your pain, remember that human beings are limited. People can only understand what they see, what they hear, or what they themselves have experienced. But Allah understands what remains hidden. The words you never said, the tears you wiped away quickly, the nights you stayed awake worrying, none of these are hidden from Him. Sometimes Allah allows people to disappoint us so that we learn not to depend completely on people for emotional survival, but to strengthen our connection with Him. One of the most difficult feelings a person can experience is not pain itself, but feeling misunderstood while carrying that pain. There are moments when you wish someone would simply understand without needing explanations. You want someone to look at you and immediately know what is happening inside your heart. But life teaches us something important very quickly. Not everyone will understand your struggle, and not everyone is supposed to. Many people become disappointed when they discover that others cannot fully feel what they feel. You explain your problems, but the response feels small. You open your heart, but people change the topic. You hope for comfort, but sometimes receive advice that makes things feel worse. This can create loneliness even when surrounded by people. You begin asking yourself, why does nobody understand me? The truth is that human beings are limited. People see appearances while Allah sees reality. Think about how many emotions exist inside a single person at one moment. Fear, hope, sadness, confusion, disappointment, exhaustion. Sometimes even you struggle to explain what is happening inside yourself. If you cannot fully explain your own emotions, then expecting every person around you to perfectly understand them may create even greater disappointment. This is why understanding the difference between people and Allah becomes important. Human beings forget conversations. Allah does not. People become distracted while listening. Allah never misses a single word. People may judge your emotions without understanding your circumstances. Allah knows every circumstance before you even speak. There are nights when people sleep peacefully while you remain awake thinking about things nobody knows. Maybe financial worries are exhausting you. Maybe family problems are hurting you. Maybe disappointment keeps replaying inside your mind. Maybe you smile during the day, but cry when nobody is around. During those moments, it becomes easy to feel isolated. Yet those are often the moments when you should remind yourself that being unseen by people does not mean being unseen by Allah. Sometimes people unintentionally hurt us because they simply do not know how to respond. Not everyone has emotional understanding. Not everyone has experienced similar struggles. A person who never experienced certain pain may struggle to understand someone who lives with it daily. This does not always mean people are bad. Sometimes it simply means they are human. One mistake many people make is expecting humans to provide what only Allah can provide completely. We expect people to remove all loneliness, understand every emotion, solve every problem, and always say the perfect words. Eventually, reality teaches us that people themselves are struggling too. They carry their own fears, problems, and weaknesses. There is wisdom in this. If humans could completely satisfy every emotional need, many people would forget their dependence upon Allah. Sometimes disappointment from people pushes us toward conversations with Allah that become life-changing. Sometimes broken expectations redirect our hearts toward the one who never disappoints. You may remember moments when you asked someone for support and felt worse afterward. Then later, during a sincere prayer or private conversation with Allah, your heart felt lighter. Nothing outside changed immediately, but something inside changed. That feeling matters because true comfort often begins internally before circumstances improve externally. Pain also changes how we see relationships. Difficult moments reveal who truly cares, who listens, who remains present during hard times, and who disappears when things become complicated. While painful, these experiences teach valuable lessons. Not every person walking beside you is meant to walk with you forever. There are also moments when people misunderstand your intentions completely. You are struggling silently and people call you lazy. You are emotionally exhausted and people call you distant. You are fighting internal battles and people assume you are fine because you are smiling. These situations hurt because human beings naturally want to feel understood. But consider something important. Many prophets faced misunderstanding too. People doubted them, criticized them, ignored them, and sometimes even opposed them despite sincerity and truth. Being misunderstood is painful, but it is not proof that your value has decreased. Sometimes Allah allows periods of loneliness because distractions become quieter there. During busy times, people often forget reflection. During difficult times, people begin asking deeper questions. They think about purpose more seriously. They become more sincere in prayer. They become more aware of their dependence upon Allah. This does not mean you should avoid people or stop seeking support. Human connection remains important. Good friends, family, and community matter greatly. But emotional survival should not depend entirely upon whether people understand perfectly, because perfection does not exist among human beings. There may be someone listening right now who feels exhausted because they keep trying to explain themselves. Maybe you are tired of repeating your pain. Maybe you stopped talking because previous attempts brought disappointment. Maybe you feel invisible despite being surrounded by others. Know this, every silent tear matters. Every hidden worry matters. Every painful moment matters. Even when nobody asks the right questions, Allah already knows the answers. Even when explanations feel impossible, Allah understands completely. Even when your voice shakes during dua because emotions become too heavy, Allah hears what your heart cannot organize into words. Perhaps today people still do not understand what you carry. Perhaps they never fully will. But there is peace in knowing that the one who created your heart understands every detail of what exists inside it, even the parts you yourself struggle to explain. Your pain is not proof that Allah abandoned you. Sometimes pain becomes the path through which Allah changes you, strengthens you, protects you, or redirects your life towards something better. Many people look back years later and realize that what once broke them eventually built them. The struggle you hate today may become the reason you grow into someone stronger tomorrow. Pain has a strange way of changing how people see life. When things are going well, we often assume life will continue the same way forever. We make plans, create expectations, and imagine how our future should look. Then suddenly something changes. A loss happens, a disappointment appears, a door closes, someone leaves. Something you prayed for does not happen, and slowly difficult questions begin entering your mind. You begin wondering why this happened, why now, and sometimes even why you. During these moments, one of the biggest mistakes people make is believing that pain automatically means Allah is distant from them. They think, if Allah loved me, why would this happen? But life does not always work that way. Sometimes the most painful chapters of life become the chapters that change everything. Think about how people grow in life. Growth rarely happens when everything is easy. Strength rarely develops when nothing challenges you. Patience rarely appears when you receive everything immediately. Many qualities people admire: strength, wisdom, resilience, patience, maturity, are often built through uncomfortable experiences. There are people who today speak with wisdom because they survived things that nearly destroyed them years ago. There are people who comfort others because they once experienced deep pain themselves. There are people whose relationship with Allah became stronger only after they experienced moments when everything else felt unstable. Sometimes pain forces you to stop and examine your life more deeply. You begin questioning priorities. You start noticing things you ignored before. You realize how temporary certain things are. You understand which relationships truly matter and which ones existed only during easy times. Human beings naturally avoid discomfort. Nobody wakes up asking for hardship. Nobody wants heartbreak, disappointment, or difficult days. But sometimes what feels terrible in one moment later reveals wisdom you could not see before. Imagine if every closed door immediately reopened exactly as you wanted. Imagine if every loss instantly disappeared. Imagine if every obstacle moved away immediately. Would people ever learn patience? Would gratitude remain strong? Would people continue seeking Allah during ease the same way they seek Him during difficulty? There are moments in life when Allah removes something because keeping it would harm you later. But because humans see only the present moment, they interpret removal as punishment rather than protection. Years later, perspective changes everything. You may remember situations where you desperately wanted something that never happened. At that time, disappointment felt unbearable. Later, you realize that what you wanted would have created bigger problems. Suddenly, what once looked like rejection began looking like mercy. Pain also reveals hidden strength. Before certain difficulties happen, many people believe they cannot survive them. They think, if this ever happens, I will never recover. Then life tests them, and somehow they continue moving forward. Slowly they discover strength they never realized existed. This does not mean pain becomes easy. Difficult moments still hurt. Tears remain real. Exhaustion remains real. Emotional struggles remain real. Faith does not remove human emotions. Rather, faith gives direction while experiencing those emotions. Sometimes Allah changes people through processes rather than instant solutions. We often ask for immediate change because waiting feels uncomfortable. But long processes sometimes create deeper transformation. The person who patiently rebuilds after hardship often becomes different from the person who never experienced struggle. There are also times when pain creates empathy. A person who experienced loneliness understands lonely people differently. A person who experienced financial struggle understands stress differently. A person who experienced loss speaks differently to others experiencing similar situations. Without realizing it, pain sometimes prepares people for responsibilities they will carry later. The patience you learn now may help your future family. The strength you develop now may help someone else later. The lessons you learn now may save someone else from hopelessness. It is important to remember something else. Just because you cannot see wisdom immediately does not mean wisdom does not exist. Human beings naturally want answers quickly, but sometimes understanding arrives years later. You may currently be carrying something heavy. Maybe people around you do not fully understand it. Maybe you expected life to look different by now. Maybe you are tired of waiting for things to improve. During those moments, remember that painful chapters are still chapters, not the entire story. Some people judge their entire future based on their current pain. But feelings during difficult seasons do not always describe reality accurately. A person standing in darkness may believe sunrise is impossible simply because they cannot see it yet. Even during hardship, life continues changing. Circumstances change, opportunities change, hearts change, people change. Situations that once seemed impossible sometimes slowly begin improving in ways nobody expected. And perhaps one of the hardest but most beautiful things to accept is this. Sometimes Allah is not only changing your situation through pain. Sometimes He is changing you. Even when nobody understands your struggle, continue speaking to Allah, because sincere conversations with your Creator are never wasted. Keep making dua, keep praying, keep trying, and keep moving forward, even if progress feels slow. Some of the greatest blessings arrive after moments when people almost gave up, and sometimes relief begins appearing quietly long before you recognize it. There is something deeply powerful about the act of continuing to turn back to Allah when everything inside you feels tired. It is easy to pray when life feels manageable, when hope feels strong, when answers seem close. But the real test of sincerity often appears when nothing seems to be changing, when doors remain closed, when silence feels long, and when your heart starts questioning whether anything is happening at all. In those moments, continuing to speak to Allah becomes more than routine. It becomes a declaration of trust. Even when nobody understands your struggle, Allah understands it completely. You may feel like people around you cannot see your pain, or they do not fully grasp what you are going through. But every word you whisper in dua reaches a place where it is never ignored. Sometimes you speak without even knowing how to express what you feel. Yet, those unspoken emotions are still known. One of the most beautiful truths about dua is that it is never wasted. Even when the outcome is delayed, even when results are not visible, even when your circumstances remain unchanged for a while, nothing is lost. Every moment you spend in sincere communication with Allah is shaping something within you, even if you cannot see it yet. There are people who stop making dua because they feel discouraged by delay. They assume silence means rejection. But silence is not always rejection. Sometimes silence is preparation. Sometimes silence is protection. Sometimes silence is Allah building something in your life that requires time before it appears. Think about how many times in life you thought something was not happening, only to later realize it was being arranged in ways you could not see. Doors were aligning, situations were shifting, people were moving, events were unfolding behind the scenes, while you were only aware of waiting. Human beings see moments, but Allah controls timelines. Continuing to make dua even when nobody understands your struggle is also a form of emotional strength. Because in those moments, you are not relying on human approval or human understanding to continue your connection with Allah. You are choosing to maintain your trust even when feelings fluctuate. There are times when you might feel alone in your struggle. You may smile in front of others, but carry silent heaviness inside. You may act normal in daily life, but your heart is dealing with things nobody knows about. Yet even in that hidden space, your conversations with Allah remain real and they remain heard. One of the most comforting realities is that Allah does not measure dua by volume or appearance. It is not about how perfectly you speak, or how long you stay in prayer, or how emotional you become. It is about sincerity. Even a quiet, broken whisper from a tired heart carries weight that you cannot imagine. Sometimes people expect immediate results after making dua. When nothing changes quickly, they feel discouraged. But spiritual growth often works differently. Sometimes Allah answers by strengthening your heart before changing your situation. You become more patient without realizing it. You become more grounded. You begin to see life with more clarity. These internal changes are also answers, even if they do not look like what you originally asked for. There are also moments when Allah delays something because the timing is not right. What you want may be good, but not at the time you want it. Human understanding is limited, but divine wisdom is complete. What feels like delay may actually be alignment. And even in long waiting periods, something beautiful often happens quietly. Your connection with Allah becomes more personal. You begin turning to Him not just for requests, but for comfort. Not just for solutions, but for peace. Not just for outcomes, but for closeness. This shift itself is a blessing. Many people do not realize that some of the strongest believers are shaped during the most uncertain seasons of life. When everything is easy, faith can become routine. But when life becomes heavy, faith becomes real. It becomes a lifeline instead of a habit. So even if nobody understands what you are going through, do not let that silence you from making dua. Speak anyway, ask anyway, cry anyway, hope anyway, because every sincere moment is being recorded in ways that matter far more than what is visible right now. And here is something hopeful to hold on to. The same Allah who carried you through every difficulty you have already survived is the same Allah holding your future. Nothing you are facing is unknown to Him. Nothing you are waiting for is forgotten. And nothing you are asking for sincerely is ignored. Sometimes what is coming ahead is greater than what you are currently imagining. Sometimes relief arrives in a way that feels unexpected but perfectly timed. Sometimes the answer looks different from the request, but turns out to be exactly what you needed. So keep going, even if progress feels invisible. Keep trusting, even if understanding is unclear. Keep making dua, even if your voice shakes. Because what is coming may be closer than you think, and the one you are calling upon never forgets even a single whisper. And if this reminder is reaching your heart today, don't let it end here. Subscribe to the channel so you can keep receiving reminders that bring hope back into your heart when you need it most.